staff at Yachad who put the program together. They advertised it, and they were really after this program in order that you should be able to get together and learn something about Shalom Ba'id, and especially before Yom Kippur. It's about 2 nights, not tomorrow night, the day after tomorrow night is Yom Kippur. So usually people go to Teshuvah Darash. So if something about family, it could be really very opportune time to think about Teshuvah. Because the topic that we're going to speak about has to do with Teshuvah, has to do with Kippur, has to do with family, has to do with relationship. And I'm sure as we go over it tonight, you'll see how. There, as we're saying Yom Kippur, there is a story of Jose Milublin. Jose Milublin was one of the Hasidic Rebbein who was called Jose because Jose, he had a special Ruach HaKodesh. He would see things that not everybody would be able to see. He would be able to say people a lot of things. A very big tzaddik. One time, Motzei Yom Kippur, he tells, after Yom Kippur finishes, he tells that I could tell anyone what they davened for during Yom Kippur. What they have asked HaKadosh Baruch. Anyone who wants could come and ask me. I could tell them what they davened for. People are scared to go and say, maybe they daven for many different things. No one goes. One person goes. He says that, Rebbe, tell me what did they daven for? Rebbe tells him that you daven for that Hashem should give you more parnasa, more harvacha. You should have more income, and it should be easier for you. That when you come at night, you go to eat at home, and then you come to learn in the shul or bet midrash. You learn for 1 hour, and it's so hard. You're tired. And you want to learn more. You daven that Hashem, please help me. It's so hard to learn for that hour. I want to learn more. Please help me that my parnasa should come easier and I should be berevach, comfortably to sit down and learn many more hours. 3, 4, 5 hours. Yes, that's what you daven for. He says, Rebbe, that's what they daven for. Unbelievable. How did you know? So, to make life easier. And there is nothing wrong with life being easy. The problem exists when easiness becomes the goal rather than the mean. If we think that the goal is to be comfortable and relaxed, that's a mistake. If the goal is something worthwhile, and I want to use being more relaxed or things being more easier in order to reach a more valuable goal, that would be okay. That's understandable. People are looking for inner peace. Inner peace could be a goal to reach Yeshuva Da'at in order to be able to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu better. And it could be achieved, people think it could only be achieved under easy conditions. The truth of the matter is that there are many people who have inner peace even though they're under stress. They developed that inner peace. They worked and they trained themselves in order to be meyusha, focused, and not to be bahul or pizur hanefesh, not to be all around, even though the times might be rough. So people say that I want to be comfortable, I want to have a comfortable life. If that's what the goal is, it's not what the Torah says. Actually, what the Torah says is exactly the opposite. The ones who have seen the pasuk in Iyuv, Perek He Pasuk Zayin, the 5th chapter, the 7th pasuk. Check it out. Iyuv says, famous pasuk, Adam le'amal yulad. A person is born to toil. We are created to toil, to exert energy in order to work out. That's what you're born for. And look around. We are a nation of obese, overweight because people don't want to work out. But the meaning of the working out is what? So what do we mean by amal? Amal means toiling. Really putting your energy into something. What does it mean? Gemara Sanhedrin, Daf Tzaditet Amud Bet, 99, the 2nd folio, explains that what do we mean by Adam le'amal yulad? What is it telling us? Gemara says that I might think has humbled itself. Ki akaf alav pihu, because the mouth has humbled. It has controlled, it has subdued itself. Akaf means like putting over a yoke to cover, and it should show a hachna'ah, someone subjugating himself. So Gemara says from here we learn that the amal, the toiling that the Torah talks about is amal peh, for us to toil with our mouth. What would that mean? There are a few things that we would learn from it. Gemara says that is amal peh. The things that we do say is learning Torah, is saying tefillah, words of encouragement. And the things that we don't say, that we control ourselves. We want to say something, we can't help it. We really want to mention, we want to express, we would like to take some words, throw some words out of our mouth, and we hold ourselves. That's amelut. It's hard. It's not easy. It's a hard thing to do. And for that energy that we exert to control ourselves, God says you will get reward, and a lot of reward. Huge reward for every moment that you don't say something which you are not supposed to say. Because that's what you are created for. That's supposed to. Adam le'amal yulad, ki akef alavet pihu, and that's what the amelut is. It's interesting. There's a famous adage that says, Lefum tzara agra. According to the tza'ar, according to the pain, is agra, is the reward. And that always means that the more pain you have, the more reward you get. I think this is the Rasul Salante, if I'm not mistaken. He says, Lefum, the word fum in Aramaic means pe, mouth. Lefum tzara. When you give to your mouth pain by not saying something that you really want to say, agra, you deserve reward. And a lot of it. A lot of it. Because look around. See how many tragedies, friendships, problems. You look around, you could see that many of them originates because people do not keep their mouth shut when it needs to be closed. And sometimes they don't open it when it has to be open. But mostly, these are the times that we should close them, because that's when it's hard. That's when it's hard. Person would like to say. So tonight we're going to cover one of the aspects of when is it that our mouth should be closed in order to receive huge reward. And it's the topic of ona'at devarim. Ona'at devarim means hurtful words. Saying words, statements, any kind of expression that creates some kind of pain or hurt to others. Ona'at devarim. Hurting others with our words. In English, they stick and stones might break my bones, but words might not hurt me, might not break my soul. There are different versions of how to say that. The ones who know it really, they say that really the words could break my spirit and break my heart. In Farsi, they say, harf bade havas. Words are just wind in the air, meaning they would like to minimize the effect of it. When someone says something and says that what you're saying is not appropriate, you're going to hurt someone. Harf bade havas, just say something, just air, it's just wind. It's true, it's wind. But wind could be destructive. Wind could create and construct. Like when you go to the ways of Palm Springs, you see these wind turbines working, they're creating energy from the wind. They create light, electricity. But the same wind, it could demolish and destruct. You remember Hurricane Sandy? We are living West Coast and we do not have hurricane. But people who went through it understand the power of wind. And no one could come and say that wind doesn't have any power. Wind could be destructive. Just imagine someone calls insurance company to claim the house is damaged and say that this is what happened. And insurance company would say that, it's just wind. We don't cover wind. Wind can't do anything. Wind is destructive, and that's our words. Our words are winds. And these are winds that could destruct relationship, emotion, heart, self-esteem, confidence, future of people. And the most important is in our closest relationships. What those winds could do. And if you want to know where does it say in the Torah about this, it's in Vayikra, the last parasha of Vayikra, Parashat Behar. It mentions twice the word al tonu. One time it says al tonu ishet amito, do not aggrieve each other, which Chachamim learned it's in the context of selling and buying. And it says when you buy and sell merchandise, land, any property, anything, be careful not to aggravate, not to cheat, not to sell something more than it's worth or to buy something less than what is it worth. And Gemara learns a lot of things from it. But that's in Pasuk 14. In Pasuk 17, 3 Pasukim later, it says again, Velo tonu ishet amito. Do not aggravate one another. Do not hurt each other. Rashi brings down, and the Gemara talks about this, that in Gemara Ba'ametzia, Daf Nun Tet, that this lo tonu ishet amito is referring not to aggravating financially. This is complete emotional hurt. Torah is saying, God is saying, don't hurt others by your words. Do not hurt others emotionally. And when you hurt, you are actually transgressing a sin. Midoraita from the Torah. It's a law. So onat devarim means hurtful words. What's the definition of onat devarim? I have a definition, which after reading throughout all the material that exists, whatever I was able to read, this is my definition. Any communication that creates an unpleasant feeling in someone else is onat devarim. It's considered to be hurtful words. Listen that I said communication, I didn't say words. Because you could do onat devarim, someone asks us something and he would just show him a sour face. Just like that. You would ignore them, you would reject them. That's onat devarim. What emotion are you engendering in this person? By the way, your body language, by the way you look at the person. Because in 2 days in Yom Kippur, you're going to say the whole list of al-chet. Al-chet, shachal el-fan dechabe, you're going to go through a whole aleph, bet till top, and then going to come back from top to aleph. Over there are few that talks about besikur ayin. There are few that talks about by the way we moved our eyes, by the way I moved my eyebrows, by the way I moved my lips. It all talks about the way I gave a body language, a facial expression that hurt someone else. That's onat devarim. And that's an isur. That's an isur in the Torah. Examples? And it could be done with sarcasm, jokingly. People think, if I would hurt someone with joke, it might not hurt them. It's like that I said that I take a knife and I said that there is a difference if I stick out the knife into someone angrily or if I stick out while I'm laughing. It doesn't hurt anymore because I just giggle. It's the same pain. It's a stabbing. So it doesn't make a difference if I see someone after a while and I go and tell them, Chach shadiya. You've gained some weight. Just want to give you chizuk to do some exercise. What feeling are you creating in this person? What's the message you're giving them? How close you are? How could you say, even the closest person, how could you say such a thing? You're telling the person a degrading remark. Or a husband would come home and eat the supper and would say that, oh, it doesn't taste good, it tastes awful. You want to give a comment, there are ways to give comments. Think about the way that would not hurt. You could say that, could you pass me the salt? I would like to add some salt to this. That's already giving the message that I want to add some salt into this. If that's enough. But you need to pay attention in your relationship that what is it that could create hurt and avoid that. Or a husband comes home and he's into buying safari, buying books. He loves to buy books. He comes home with another 3 or 4 safari in his hand. And the wife says, how many? You want to make your own library? That's ona'at devarim. What are you telling the person? Something that you are hurting the person's feelings. You're putting the person down. I remember Rabbi Levi Chaim or Rosh Kollel. He said something a number of years ago, we were in yeshiva, and it always stuck into my mind. He said that before he would be married, he would be invited to other families to go, with other friends from the yeshiva, from Bachurim. They would go and they would be, but different hosts. He said jokingly, when he wanted to talk about how the host had taken care of them, how delicious the food was, he would say it like this. He would say that, I say it in Farsi and I'm going to translate. He said, این غذای همه چی داره ولی یه چیزی نداره. So everyone would look, what does it have? Everyone paying attention. He says, حرف نداره. So in Farsi, the ones who know that it's missing something. What's missing? There is no words. There is missing words to express how good it is. So he said he was saying that everyone would get a laugh out of it, and he would feel as if that he's giving a good compliment. But he said he stopped doing that. He said it wasn't worth it for those few seconds that the host would feel, oh my goodness, what is it missing? Even though later he and she will find out, oh, it was just a joke, and really, he's really loving it, and he's even giving a compliment. He said it was not worth it for those 2 seconds that the person will feel, my goodness, did I do something wrong? That's sensitivity. That's being careful. That's understanding, being compassionate, that I do not want to create a hurtful feeling in your heart, in your mind, even for a moment. Now, there is a question that I always encounter, I'm sure you have encountered too, very famous, that people say that my spouse, my sister, my friend, he or she, they're just highly sensitive. They just they're too sensitive. I mean, what could I do? I mean, I do not have to kill myself. I have to walk in eggshells every time I want to speak. It's a good question. Are we really supposed to be extra careful with people who are extra sensitive? Because they do exist. They do exist. So, is it my fault that they are more sensitive? What would Hashem want from me? Before I answer that, let's know that we are talking about, I think you could say we have 3 categories of people. We have people who are on the normal level. Their pain tolerance, the threshold for pain is normal. There are people who are a bit more sensitive. You could call them hypersensitive, highly sensitive. They are more sensitive than others. And there are people who are on the much higher level, that they are too much sensitive, overly sensitive. I'm not talking about those people, maybe 5%, 10%, that they could have some issues. For some reason, there is a trauma, there is a post-traumatic stress disorder, there is a memory, there is anger, there is something that they are overly highly sensitive. I'm talking about people that under normal circumstances, they are more sensitive. Just talk to any dentist, any anesthesiologist. They're going to tell you, 2 people, same height, same weight, same build, the medication that's used in order to put them into sleep has different doses. When a person goes to dentist, ask your dentist. The person before you with 1 injection was able to do a root canal, and for you, you might need to 2 or 3 in order just to touch the enamel. And it's just who we are. Some people are born a bit more sensitive in their skin, physical, and in their soul, emotional. They're just more sensitive. And to tell them that don't be too sensitive is like that you tell someone who has allergies, don't have allergy. Why do you have allergy? Just forget about it. The person goes out in a regular day, you're walking, the person starts sneezing. One after another. They said, could you stop it and not to be so allergy? You forget about allergies. What control does a person have? his body considers the pollens as some kind of external agents that are invading your body. So the nose starts creating histamine, which creates mucus and creates all the different kind of metabolism or changes that the person starts to show. Postnasal drips, runny nose, sneezing. You can't tell the person don't have allergies. That's who they are.
There's medications for it.
There are medications for it, thank you. I have allergies and I take medications, and there are days that no medications could help. No medications could help, nothing. You could tell a person, let's take some medication, but you can't tell them don't have allergies. If a person is sensitive, you could find out, what could I do to help you in order that your sensitivity to be taken care of, to be cared for? How could I protect you? How could you feel protected? So let's look to see if God gives right to people who are more sensitive. Gemara Bava Mesia in the same daf Nun Tet Amud Aleph, that talks about Lo Tonu Ishet Onat Devarim, it says, Amar Rabbi Amiri, Le'olam yeh Adam zahir be'onaat ishto, shemitoch shedim'atah mesuya, onaatah kerova. For always and forever, a person should be careful not to hurt the emotions of his wife. Why? Because she easily gets into crying, so her being hurtful comes sooner than someone else. And Rashi says, Ona atah kerova, Rachman l'san chas v'shalom, it says, Puranot memaherot lavo. If chas v'chalila, chas v'shalom, if there would be any kind of retribution, any kind of consequence for what you've done, it comes much sooner than anything else. Because the same way that the tears are just right there, ashkesha and mashkesha as we say, it's right there for her to start to tear, to start to cry. That's the same way, chas v'shalom, that you might take away the bracha from your home. So, let's go and tell God, what's my fault if you created women in a way that they cry much more easier than men? Go tell God, what do you want from my life? This is how you created them. We see from here, God says, I created them more sensitive, and that's a challenge for you to be more careful. You've got to watch it more. There is no justification, no excuse that because they are more sensitive, you have a license to kill. You can't. You can't hurt, license to hurt. You can't do that. God wants us to be more careful. This is what God is saying. Le'olam yehe Adam zahir. Shemitoch shedim'atah metzuya. Because the tears are more easily accessed. Ona'atah kerova. The avera, the sin of ona'at devarim, is much sooner to be transgressed. Okay, so that I think it would be a message that now the Gemara talks about being careful for your wife. Why? Because generally men are dominant. They are the one who's macho, stronger. And usually, Gemara talks about usual cases. That's why Gemara always said that a person always have to teach Banim, his sons. That means I have no response for my daughters. No, Banim always includes sons and daughters. It's talking about usually in the Zachar, in the male format. So when it says Ishto, because generally it's men who need to be more careful towards the more sensitive wife. But it could be also the other way. It could be easily the other way. I actually had a case. I've had since a few cases, but the first case which I had, which taught me a lot, was that there was a couple. I changed some details, but the main message is there. A couple came. They had gone to another therapist for 8 years. 8 years. And they had paid arm and a leg. So they actually came in with one arm and one leg. A few $100s per session. I mean, just it proved that not necessarily the ones who charge $300, $400, $500 an hour, they know what they're doing. And since then I learned that that therapist is not someone that we could count on. Anyhow, it was a siyata d'ishmaya. They come and what was the problem? She felt ignored, not loved by the husband.
That's what she felt. And she felt that he doesn't love her, he's not enough intimate with her, they are not that close, and all the issues revolving around the relationship. So they have gone, and they have done many different sessions, and the other therapists had come to the conclusion, you know why your husband is not so lovey-dovey with you, is not so interested in you? There are two possibilities. Either he is homosexual, that's why he has no feelings toward you, or he's not faithful. He has an extramarital affair with someone. That's what she said. And because of that, she had told that to the lady in a private session. She went ahead and she got a private investigator, a detective, for over a year, paid with the other arm and leg, and she didn't have any more, in order to go and follow the husband in downtown and uptown and Beverly, all over, to catch him red-handed. When she came up with nothing, and the person said, your husband goes like a baby going to school and comes back to work and he doesn't even look around, she was frustrated with the therapist and dropped. And Mina Shemaim, it was that someone referred him. It took few sessions and with some consultation with some other people who were known in the field, that I saw that we are dealing here with a man who has a sensitive soul. He grew up in a family that the father was an aggressive, macho, chauvinistic person who always screamed, who always had his own my way or highway, and the mother who was passive, timid, always listened. He grew up looking at that and he resented his father's behavior. And he felt he could identify more with the mother's personality. That's who he was. And he never wanted to act like his father. She grew up in a family that she had older brother and a father who were all aggressive people, who were all always fighting, screaming, and wanting to get their ways. And in their family, they only had 2 volumes, like the 7 of the movies. They only had volumes of loud and louder. They couldn't speak in the normal tone of voice. She grew up understanding that this is just normal. So she spoke in a high pitch. Very high pitch, in a loud voice, especially when she would get emotional. To him, that was not music into his ears. To him, it was a reminder of an aggressive father. So his level of testosterone fell. He didn't feel at all that I could really approach this lady. He didn't feel any soft emotions towards his wife. He would implode. Some people explode externally like the wife. In this case, he would implode. He would explode internally. He would not know how to connect, so he would pull in. He would withdraw. And the way he would show it, his face would come across to her as if that he's rejecting her, he's not interested. And that's why they were just growing further and further apart. The more she pushed, the less she was getting anywhere. She was shooting herself in the leg. So what was happening here? Without her knowing, she was being over ona'at devarim. Because to her, it didn't make any sense. Men are so strong, they're tough as skin. You even humiliate them, nothing's going to happen to them. Look at my brothers and my father. They would start wrestling and killing each other the next day. He would say, hi bro, nothing, as if nothing has happened. That wasn't her husband. He was different. So after a few sessions that we some together, and then one by one, we got to that point. I asked the husband one time, I asked him that in your relationship with your wife, how do you see yourself? How do you see your wife in regards comparison to your parents? He said, easily. He said, I'm like my mother and my wife is like my father. That's how I've always seen it. To him it was clear that that's the image he has. And when I would ask the wife, and I would say that, would you be able to understand? She said, it's impossible. No way. Man, no, he's making it up. No. خودشو موشمردگی میزنه. He's just acting like a child. No. I said, you want to try a different way? let's try to be a bit more sensitive, to bring the tone of voice a little lower, not with a high pitch. Maybe try a little bit more sensitive. احساسات ظریف و لطیف. Try to imagine as if that you want to talk to you and one of your friends, a girlfriend that you have, how you talk to each other without too much emotion, and be kind, and let's see what happens. It took her a while until she was able to try to switch, because later we found out that she is carrying a lot of resentment from her own childhood. She has her own baggage that she needed to work on, but that resentment and anger would just come out because of some triggers that would happen. But when she started, and especially when they started having a date night, they would go out together, and she would try to be without stress and focus and talk to each other, things started to roll back into place. And I received an email from her late one night that they came home and then late. She couldn't hold us until she wrote me a whole big text that, thank you so much, it really worked out, I can't believe it, as if my husband has come back, it's as if we are going again, we are engaged together, I couldn't believe it that there's such a... In this case, you had a husband who was sensitive, and I have seen since then few other cases like that. That the wives, they can't imagine that there could be a man who are sensitive. But generally, as the Gemara says, these are the wives who are more sensitive. But it does not only stay in the case of husband and wife. It goes further to our kids, to our grandkids. We don't have anyone that old here. But if anyone, you're going to have Western grandkids, cousins, friends. I'll tell you another case. And all these cases I'm changing some details, but the message is there. Another boy who is in late 40s has not been able to get married. He comes in and he says the reason he can't get married is because he's very, very much overweight. And he can't lose the weight. He's depressed. So we try to work on that issue of the weight. As we go along and we are talking, we find out that there are other issues also. We try to tackle them one by one. It takes him a while until he feels comfortable. A few months into the therapy, he talks about an incident which was unbelievable. He says that he remembers that he was 6 or 7 years old before he would even go to school, to first grade, back in Iran, and he was a chubby boy. I mean, the parents were also a little bit overweight, so he inherited the genes, so he's a bit chubby. And he likes to eat. Normal. He said, I loved Nun Khamei, those kind of pastries that has cream inside. He said, I love those. I mean, I would dream about them. And so my parents always said that, no, it's too much for you, don't eat. So one time I went to my grandma's house, and I saw on the table, there was a whole platter of the Nun Khameis, and every one of them, they're calling out to me, come, eat us. He says, I was looking around, there's no one around, and I'm thinking to myself, should I? And I told me, don't. I said, I went and I grabbed two and I shoved them in my mouth and I started munching on them. And as I was in this, almost to the 7th heaven, I passed 6th heaven, I'm about to reach my climax of joy, my grandma walks in. Says, she gives me a look and she tells me, let me translate again, میدونی بچه هایی که چاق هستن فردا ازدواج میکنن نمیتونی بچه دار بشی؟ Do you know people who are overweight, when they get married, they can't have children? She thought to herself that by giving this kind of, maybe a little chizuk, intimidating criticism, it would set the boy straight. But little did she know that 40 years later, the boy can't get married because deep into his thought, he says, I'm really afraid that if I get married, I will not be able to have kids and I'll be embarrassed in front of my wife. It doesn't make sense, but deep down, as a child, he heard this and he believed it. That's pure ona at devarim. 100% גלעד כוש עולם הדברים. There's nothing else in it. By who? By no one beside a parent or a grandparent who's supposed to be giving word of encouragement, empowering, giving the child a feeling of security and support. Rather, not knowingly what they did, they crushed this child. Tell you another case. Another boy who's in late 30s, cannot hold on to a job. Can't hold on to a job. Can't find a job. The what jobs are defined, he loses. He feels like a loser. Comes. We sit down. It's obvious after 1 or 2 sessions, he has bipolar. Bipolar. He has the mood swings, goes up and up. What could he do? That's what he has. Now, it's nature, it's nurture, all of our session. So he has had that. But he was labeled by parent as تنبل، تنپرور، خودخواه، مفتخور، راحت طلب. You're lazy, you're a bum, you're selfish, you just want to have it easy. That's what he heard. Because of his emotions, he couldn't study so well. He couldn't get along so well. He had some issues. But rather than understanding, trying to have some rahmanut, some patience, some tolerance, calling him names. Una'at devarim. And he said, that's what you think of me? I'm going to grow up to be exactly what you want. I'll be the bum that you call me. I'll be the lazy person that you want me to be. That's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that's the ona'at devarim. And those are the hurtful words which wrote his future. Another boy comes. Again, he is also late 30s. He has his own issues. Can't find job, other things, relationships. And the words that he has heard is that you just want to goof off. You want to have fun. You don't want to take responsibilities. And what was his issues? He has ADHD. Pure ADHD. ADHD, one of the major things in ADHD is that easily distracted. They can't focus for a long time. Some of them, you have ADD and ADHD. The edge is hyperactivity. Attention deficit disorder could be, some people have the hyperactivity that they fidget a lot, they move, they can't sit so long. Or some people no. Especially girls who have ADD. They could be calm and sitting down for hours upon hours. But the mind is racing, going around. It easily could get distracted. So he had the issue. Parents not knowing. Okay, parents didn't know. But to go and call the child all along the years that you just want to get away, with murder, you don't want to study, put him down. That's what he thinks. He says that I was always a shaytun. I was always a naughty boy. I never wanted to study. When you talk to him, he's the intelligent boy. But the messages got from the parents, you're a bum. And he says, okay, it must be true if they say so. Una'at devarim. And the last case is a girl who also, she had finished with flying colors the university. Got a very good degree. But she can't get married. She's having issues to get married. Comes, we speak, we talk, and I'm sensing something, and I'm not sure. So I tell her next time I want to give you a test. I could have asked her a question, but I want to give you a test. There's 72 question that you could test. So she answers, she starts laughing. I said, what? She said that it's talking about me. I said, you have these issues? She said, I have these issues. I'm usually late, I get distracted, I have a hard time organizing, I have piles and piles of stuff, files. And I remember things where I put them very, very indicative of ADD. And she was not hyperactive. She would be able to sit in the classroom, but her mind was easily distracted. She said she put a mighty amount of effort in order to finish the university with flying colors, but it was extremely hard. Extremely hard. She had to pull every single amount of the strength that she had. But all along the way, she was called Shalachte, the parents. Havas Pat, spacey. always late. دوباره چی گم کردی؟ That's اونادواریم. That's اونادواریم. ADD is prone to lose things. Fine, come up with systems or ways. Okay, here there is a hook by the door. The moment you come in, you put in your keys over there. This is the place that you put them in. Make up a system. Help. There are books. When I ask, there are books to read about this. There's a wonderful book called Driven to Distraction. If anyone wants, later could ask me. Wonderful book. Talks about if you have ADD or if you live with someone who has ADD, your kids. Read the book. It gives a lot of suggestions how to go about helping the person who might have ADD in order to create an ADD friendly. And these people are very, very intelligent. But she was called all along, and she came and she felt, she says that, I really don't feel I'm capable enough of becoming a wife and a mother. Because I'm very shalachte. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to really handle a household. Deep down, outside, everyone thinks about Khanum Folani, Khanum Doctor. She has really accomplished a lot. But deep down, she feels, you do not know what's inside me. There is a turmoil. There is a whole hurricane inside. The words that have engulfed her in her Gehinnom was the words of the parent calling her Havaspat, Shelachte, Kalat کجا بود؟ یاد رفته اصلا به خودت این دفعه چی بیاری؟ Those words are painful and they hurt. So the words also are said to singles. I know singles that they don't go to shuls or to gatherings. Why? Because they are tired of hearing people's remarks, thinking that people want to give them chizuk, but what people are doing are really hurting. People they think that if we give them these words of encouragement, we're going to help them. As if this is a whole flock of sheep that you could push. Go ahead, and you could walk into your room. Go ahead, get married. Go ahead. There are so many boys and girls. What's wrong with you? این همه دختر پسر خوب است. چرا ازدواج نمی‌کنی؟ مگه ما چیکار کردیم؟ ما به شاخ داشتیم. Go get married. You want to be encouraging, ask them, what is it that I could do? Is there any way I could help you? If you know of someone, you could just suggest. You don't have to push. They might have an issue. I've seen so many singles that they can't get married because they grew up by controlling parents or by critical parents. I'm actually having with Dr. Natalie Zangan and Mrs. Fariba Rabiipur, I think. Rabizadeh, thank you. Fariba Rabizadeh. On October 16 in Nesa, we're going to have a lecture for singles, and main things that I will be speaking about is this issue that I encounter day after day. Singles who have issues, and you see that they have issues with perfectionism, they have a self-critical voice against themselves, and these are the voices of the parents. Parents who were themselves victims of their own parents. And it's been going on, it's just a chain that's continued. And someone needs to cut that chain, that vicious cycle of criticism. So because they're very critical on themselves, people are critical on them too. They can't make a decision. They are paralyzed. They can't go on. So I end up with this joke that we can't go ahead and when we see them not married, tell them, no, soon. Move along, zud bosh. They said that there was a boy that whenever he would go to a chatuna, to a chasen, to a chuppah, and after the chuppah, the aunt, the amir would come and said, no, soon by you. So always, again, by next chatuna, again and again. And he was getting really frustrated and kalafeh. So he said that now, I need to stop this somehow. So next time when there was a funeral, he went to her and said, no, soon by you. The same way that we don't want to be hurt, we have to be careful not to hurt others. It's important to pay attention that if people are more sensitive than us, it does not give us any right that we could hurt them. I wanted to finish with this, that introduce to you a book. I would urge everyone to read the book. It's called The Verbally Abusive Relationship. It's written by Dr. Patricia Evans. This was a bestseller number of years. And this goes deeper into Ona'at Devarim in a contemporary language. And it talks about if chas v'sholom, the relationship has got to a point that is very painful. And some people, they just suffer in silence. And that needs to be stopped. I have copied actually 2 pages of it that it actually gives a 10 questionnaire that by reading those questions and answering them, if there are 2 or 3 of them that applies to you, then you definitely would like to read the book, and you or someone else that you might know of, they would need help. So maybe you want to pass this around. We're going to read this few together. Thank you. I'm going to start reading until you get the paper. It said, most of us are aware that name calling is verbally abusive. If you have been called idiot, dummy, any other derogatory name, you have been verbally abused. Name calling is the most obvious form of verbal abuse and is not difficult to recognize. Other forms of verbal abuse are less evident. Recognizing these forms of abuse in adult couple relationships can be very difficult for many reasons. Some primary reasons why we can't recognize is mostly verbal abuse is secretive. Usually only the partner of the abuser hears it. It's behind closed doors. Verbal abuse becomes more intensive over time. The partner becomes used to and adapted to it. Verbal abuse takes many forms and disguises. Verbal abuse consistently discounts the partner's perception of the abuse. Verbal abuse is in a sense built into our culture. The upmanship, intimidating, hard selling, these are all into. Let's look at this next page and let's look at this evaluation. Number 1. It says he, but it could be she too, as we said. He seems irritated or angry with you several times a week or more, although you hadn't meant to upset him. You are surprised each time. He says he's not mad when you ask him what he's mad about, or he tells you in some way that it's your fault. Number 2, when you feel hurt and try to discuss your upset feelings with him, you don't feel as if the issue has been fully resolved. So you don't feel happy and relieved. Nor do you have a feeling that you have kissed and made up. He says, you're just trying to start an argument, or in some other way expresses his refusal to discuss the situation. 3, you frequently feel perplexed and frustrated by his responses when you can't get him to understand your intentions. 4, you are upset not so much about concrete issues, how much time to spend with each other, where to go on vacation, etc., as about the communication in the relationship, what he thinks you said and what you heard him say. Number 5, you sometimes wonder, what's wrong with me? I shouldn't feel so bad. And you start doubting yourself. He rarely, if ever, seems to want to share his thoughts or plans with you. Number 7, he seems to take the opposite view from you on almost everything you mention. And his view is not qualified by I think, I believe, or I feel. As if your view were wrong and his were right. Number 8, you sometimes wonder if he perceives you as a separate person. Number 9, you can't recall saying to him, cut it out or stop it. You feel timid, you feel passive. You see, you can't say it because you're afraid of his anger. Number 10, he is either angry or has no idea what you're talking about when you try to discuss an issue with him. If you agree with 2 or more of these statements, this book will support you in recognizing verbal abuse. And if not, it will help you to be compassionate towards those who might be going through this challenge. It's an important thing to know that verbal abuse, chas v'shalom, many times turns into physical abuse also. So it needs to be stopped, and definitely if you know someone who might be experiencing things like that, encourage them that they should get help. I'm available for any questions you might have.
When you somehow you have to communicate, how do you balance that use versus communicating and expressing?
Beautiful question. How would you if you want to say something you don't want to abuse? Give me an example, if you don't mind. Anything, just rough.
It's always, it could go out of balance, no matter how you express it.
Sure. That's a beautiful thing. So you're saying that it could always go out of balance. Yes, we do not have to be paralyzed. As long as we have sensitivity, that I'm careful, I'm thinking about the words, I'm thinking about the other party, I'm not just throwing the words out, I process them, think twice before speaking once, as they say. As long as I'm doing that, my spouse understands that even if I said something which might have been hurtful, they would know, or they could tell us that hurts me when you say such a thing.
So this is the continuous challenge of how to...
Beautiful. It's a continuous challenge because Adam le'amal yulad. Because, thank you so much. A person is born for challenge. Challenge means that we are alive. Challenge means when Torah says ubacharta b'chaim, choose life, it means choose challenge in life. Because without challenge, a person is not living for a purpose. And that was how we started the story. The Jose Milugrim told the man that God said, no, I do not want you to have that extra hour of comfort that when you come to learn you could learn more or with more comfort, because that hour of learning that you do with pain, with discomfort, it equals hundreds more. So the challenge is valuable. And challenge is something that we want to anticipate. We don't want problem, we want challenge. Challenge is the only way that you could grow. If you ask anyone who is in bodybuilding, ask them if they would like to have stronger muscle and they want to build up, if they're able to pick up easily at 10 pounds, their coach is going to tell them you have to go to 12, 13, 15. He's going to say, but it's harder. Yes, you want a muscle? You want to become stronger? You need to pick up something which is harder. And if you don't add to it consistently, you will stay where you are. And we are not born to stay where we are. Malachim are born, created to stay where they are. They're omdi. Adam is the mahalik. We are supposed to always be moving higher and higher. We could either go up or down. We can't stay in one place.
What are some signs to pick up if something you're telling somebody, you're pressing their button and they're being abused? You know, not everything for everyone is abused.
Beautiful question. How would you know if what you're saying might be abusive, might be hurtful? If they're mature enough, you ask them. You ask them that, either at that time or later, you would ask them that, what I said, or usually when I say such a thing, would you mind? Does it hurt you? Is it okay when I express it that way? If they say no, if they mind, how would I be able to express if I want to share with you something like that? If I want to share with you my feeling or my opinion, how would you like to hear that? Could you help me that I could formulate a way to express that? It might take a little time to figure out a way of expression, but it's worth it. If they are not mature enough, if they're children, or if someone that might not know really how to express themselves, it will be our challenge to try to run it by someone else, ask someone else's opinion, or think it through. That how would I feel if I would be in this person's shoes? Anyone else? I guess no one wants to ask a question, not to hurt me most probably. Thank you so much for coming. You should have a Gemar Chatima Tova. And Be'ezah Hashem should inscribe all of us in Sefer